Welcome to the ARTDACITY series hosted by BAMSFest and sponsored by Amazon. Tonight's conversation is View from Above, Black Women Who Are Breaking Barriers Unapologetically. My name is Sheena Collier, founder and CEO of Boston While Black. We are a membership network for Boston-based Black professionals, entrepreneurs, and students who are seeking connection and community. And we are shaping a city where Black people want to live and work because they have the spaces, tools, and relationships to find their tribe, grow their network, navigate the city, and have fun. Before we jump into what's going to be an exciting conversation, I first want to acknowledge the land on which Boston Art and Music Soul Fest sits. It's the traditional territory of the Massachusetts people, and we would like to pay our respects to the elders past, present, and emerging. I'd also like to share our inclusivity and anti-harassment statement with you. BAMS Fest creates inclusive events and programs that welcome everyone. Our staff, board, volunteers, and affiliates have the right to a safe and respectful experience. Discrimination or harassment will not be tolerated in any form, either in person or virtually. In celebration of Women's History Month tonight, we are highlighting women who are breaking barriers unapologetically in their communities and their careers. I'm really excited for this discussion among two powerful Black women who are entrepreneurs, creating their own narratives in their careers while making a difference in their communities. So I'm going to introduce them. I'll give a snippet of who they are, and then they can share more as we jump into the conversation. So first, I want to introduce Naisha Deed. She is the founder of Pure Spark, which she started in 2019 with the vision of helping you on your journey to finding your pure spark. She bravely began sharing her own journey as well as mental health and wellness resources online, and later started a weekly forum for those who felt isolated in their struggles. Today, with the launch of its website, Pure Spark has become Massachusetts' first mental wellness directory for people of color. So welcome, Naisha.
Thank you.
And then I also want to introduce Ariell R. Johnson, who is the founder and president of Amalgam Comics and Coffeehouse in Philadelphia, the only Black woman-owned comic book store on the East Coast. She calls it a celebration of geek culture, a place for comic book fans, gamers, movie addicts, TV connoisseurs, and zombie apocalypse survivalists to meet and make a positive impact on the world. And since they opened in 2015, they've become not only a comic book store and coffee shop, but a true community-oriented safe space, hosting a variety of classes, serving the community that they're in. So welcome, Ariell.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Happy to have you all both. So I'll jump right into the questions, and there's things I want to know, but also want to make this a discussion, and then open up time for you all to ask each other things that you all want to know about the businesses you're building. First, I'll just start with your why. So Ariell, starting with you, why was it important for you to start this business, and why in particular did you do it through the comic book store and a coffee shop?
Well, for me, comic books are my safe space, like my safe place. I love stories. And I really got into comic books specifically because of Storm of the X-Men, which I feel like a lot of people, especially in my age group, Storm was a very important part of your life if you are a Black girl nerd. And yeah, I had a routine when I was in college. I would go to the comic book store every Friday. That was my treat for, a hard week's work in school. And I would buy my comics, and I would go directly across the street from my local comic book shop. And there was this really dope cafe called Crimson Moon, part of Philly history. That I would spend like my afternoons after I bought my books. I would go there, I would sit and just read for hours. And it was just this really warm and safe space, Black woman owned. And she was probably like the same age that I am now when she was running her business. And she had the best name ever. Her name is Coco Darling, which it's like, if that's not a superhero name, I don't know what is. And it was just this just really warm space that you could literally just spend hours and hours in there. And it was just a vibe. And Philadelphia, like a lot of cities, are going through or have been going through for the past, maybe 2 decades, kind of this period of gentrification. And that shop was located in our Center City area. So it was a situation where, Center City's gentrifying, rents are increasing, and Miss Coco Darling was forced to shutter the doors of her business. And after losing that space, after I bought my comic books each week, I was kind of at a loss of what to do. It's like, well, where do I go now? Because again, it was just, she had curated just this wonderful atmosphere. And so that was really, for me, the beginning of like what would eventually be Amalgam. And it really just started from a place of, loss for me, and a space that was really important. And I just asked myself the question, it's like, well, what if the comic book store was also that space? Comic book stores are generally set up, as retail spaces. You buy your books, you leave. But it's like, well, what if we kind of changed that a little bit and made it into a community space? And what does that look like? So that was really the birthplace of Amalgam. And in the beginning, it was me just wanting to create a space where I wanted to be and where I felt like I belonged.
And carrying on the legacy of Coco Darling.
Yes. And I had the pleasure of meeting her. She actually came to Amalgam and showed us some love, like in person. So that was like a really cool hero moment.
Nice. Meeting your superheroes in person.
Yes, absolutely.
Naisha, same for you. Why was it important for you to start your business, and why through this avenue of a wellness directory?
Yeah, so I grew up with mental illness right in front of my face, but I didn't realize it because obviously in our community we kind of sweep it under the rug, or we don't talk about it. But then in 2017, it was staring me right in the face. So I had graduated from Howard and I started this career in corporate accounting. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a CFO. And not because I loved accounting, I loved counting numbers, I loved corporate America. I just knew that I was gonna be able to make money. Money was never gonna be a concern for me. I was gonna be able to pay my bills. But going into that office every day, having to put on a mask, like not show my true self, I didn't realize it, but it was suffocating me. And I got to a point where I couldn't breathe. Like, I was so distant from myself. If you asked who I was, what I liked, I couldn't even tell you because I was faking it so much. I lost myself through it all. And so I found myself in 2017 in a very dark place, depressed, anxious, and suicidal. And then, I started the healing process. I went into inpatient. I went into therapy. I went into group therapy. And then I added on other modalities like yoga. And I realized that, like, oh, wow, this is interesting. When I put therapy with yoga, things just started to like accelerate. Things just started to make sense. When I think about my childhood and I process some of the traumas that I went through, I was able to kind of make peace with them and they no longer like burden me. So I realized at that point a couple of things. My mom sent me an article from McLean Hospital and said, you should really think about working with them on this recent project that they had where you can share your story. And I was like, this was before the pandemic, before everyone was talking about mental health. And I was like, I'm single. I don't know if I'm going back to work. And you want me to come out with my story? That sounds very, very, I don't know if I'm going to do it. But
Mm.
it kept coming up like, this is something you need to do, Naisha. You need to start sharing your story. Um, Not only because of, it's important for the world to see, but mental illness runs in my family. And unfortunately, I lost 5 family members who didn't get a chance to make it to the point that I got to,
Wow.
because they died by suicide.
Wow.
So, for me, it was like, okay, Naisha, put yourself to the side a little bit, and do this for your family members that couldn't make it, for your family members that are currently struggling, and then for your community at large. So I started to
Mm.
share my story. I felt like that wasn't enough. I felt like I needed to do more. So I started the wellness directory. But then more recently in November, I started a matching program, which has now been like, okay, I think this is it. The matching program basically allows people to fill out a form, put in their information, and then we do the legwork to kind of connect them with therapists. So out of the 165 people that have applied, we've been able to match 120 people to
Wow.
therapists, people that were before not able to do that. So it's a
Wow.
very much so healing type of work for me,
Mm.
because I get to help people that were in my same situation heal.
Wow. That's amazing. I mean, one of the things that I hear, well, a couple of things in both of your whys. One, and I think this is true for a lot of entrepreneurs, is you're really like fulfilling your own need. Like it came out of something that, you needed to do for yourself or wanted to do for yourself. And then by extension of that, you're serving a community of people. One of our part of our mission statement in Boston Black is about finding your tribe. And I think that a lot of what we do in life is doing that, kind of looking for, our people, the people that are we can relate to, that are facing the things that we're facing. And, as entrepreneurs, we take it one step forward and be like, I don't just want to find my tribe. Like I want to actually create something to serve, a need I know I have, and I know that others would have. So that's really amazing, very brave of both of you all. um, my next question is around, in Women's History Month, just leaving Black History Month, but being Black women all the time, regardless of what month it is. Um, what do you? Well, one, we know we hear all these stats about Black women leading the charge in entrepreneurship, right? Like fastest growing, least funded. Uh, what do you? How do you and more generally as Black women um, maintain, kind of sustain as we're leading in the ways that we're leading as entrepreneurs, but maybe not getting the support that we need as entrepreneurs. So people love celebrating, we're most highest degree earners, business owners, but still for some reason don't see the value in supporting the things that we're doing. How do we, what are your thoughts on that? And how do you personally, and how do we as Black women maintain as we continue to face that? And Naisha, if you
You
want to go off.
Yeah.
Whoever.
Well, I had to minimize a lot of my expenses in order to do the work that I'm doing now. So I went from, a 6-figure salary and living in DC on my way to purchase a home, to, I have a lot less things, right? Um, and so it's a sacrifice that I'm making in order to do the work that I want to do. But in the same time, I don't feel like I'm not being supported, and maybe I'm in the minority, because I feel very supported. Like we were talking about a little bit earlier, I just won a competition. There's a lot of grants out there that I am kind of pausing operations to apply for. So we'll see if I get these grants that I apply for. I don't know. Um, but I don't feel like I'm in that space of I'm struggling right now. I don't think that's not my story. I don't know if Ariell feels that way.
Well, Naisha, first I want to say there are a lot of parallels. Also an accounting major, though I did not go into the corporate world. I went into the nonprofit world where I think it's probably equal stress, less money. But again, being in the space of just being unhappy. I had a 45-minute commute to work and I would cry the entire way there. I was just so unhappy. And again, so me actually moving forward with Amalgam, like, again, it was always this idea, this thing I would like, what if, but I got to a place where it's like, I need to do something because I am not happy, and just kind of, that dark spiral of thought. So I really, really like understand everything you said and you went through on your journey. And so it's funny because this conversation of support is something that I've been meditating on recently. So on one hand, I am very supported. I have a family and network of friends, and even at this point, just customers, part of the amalgamation, which is what we call them, a part of our community who really want to see Amalgam succeed. During COVID, people buying gift cards and just, things like that. I even had customers that were just sending money and with the note of like, because this space is important and I want you all to make it. And just so as we're kind of reopening and folks are coming in, I've given so many hugs. There have been so many tears of people just saying, I'm so happy this space exists. Thank you. I'm happy you're still here because this space is important. So it's like, so that's one end of it, so it's like, there is this community of support, but I feel like there are also those out there who want to, I guess, capitalize on, on this magic, on this vibe or whatever it is. But they don't actually value the work, so it's like, oh, we want you to host programming, this and that. And then it's like, okay, great. Here are our fees. And then immediately it's like, oh, we thought, the warm and tinglies would be enough, like, oh, well, people who do this in the past have felt it to be very, very fulfilling. And the thing is, I'm sure it is. And in a world, if we didn't live in the world we lived in, I would do this for free. And honestly, as an entrepreneur, sometimes you are doing it for free. It's like I get up and go to work and sometimes I'm doing it for free, but I love what I do. But the reality is we exist in a world where I have to pay rent. I have a team. I gotta, my team loves their job, but they also need their paycheck, right? So it's one of those things. It's like, so if you value it enough to reach out to me and think that what I'm doing can add value to your brand. I mean, because sometimes that's what it is. You want to be able to say you were connected with us, then it's like, then value us enough to pay our price, because there's a reason behind it. It's like, I'm not flexing. It's like these are the costs I have to charge so that we are here tomorrow. I'm trying to make sure we are here tomorrow and the next day and the next day. So I feel like both of those things are happening. It's this, again, that strong community of support. Like, I could never say out of my mouth, I'm not supported, but I also recognize those people who are trying to take advantage. And again, trying to, colonize the vibe, if you will. It's like, you know what I mean? And it's like, no, you gotta, and I'm just in this space of like, it's like, do not that. And that's not mine. A friend, Sherelle Champagne, she's a Black woman doing great things on her own, but that's her thing. But I was like, that's exactly it. And it's like value, like really value Black women, because I know some things that you've asked me to do for free, if I looked a little different, like if I was a white guy, you wouldn't have dared ask me to do that for free. And you know that just as well as I do. So I just kind of being in a place where sometimes you got to say, I wish you well, but we can't do that, and just kind of making that stand. And I think that's important for us, because I think the world expects Black women to sacrifice. I think people are really comfortable seeing us sacrifice all of ourselves for other people and not realizing it's like, but you have to give back to us, you know? So that's kind of where I am with
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, there's definitely a belief of that exposure pays the bills, and it does, in a sense of, introducing you to bigger audiences and platforms, and maybe people that you wouldn't. I've definitely done things because it put me in front of people that I wouldn't normally be in front of, and at the same time, particularly as you start to grow your brand or your business and all the work that you've put in to charge what you want to charge, having people respect that and not feel like you are feeling yourself because you value
Yeah.
yourself.
And the thing is,
Yeah.
it's
And
like, so for Amalgam, we're 6 years old. So I've done the exposure thing. You know who I am because of exposure, but eventually exposure has to turn into revenue, right? And so now I'm in the revenue phase. It's like you missed
right.
the exposure, but and now we need to because that's real. Like, again, I have so much I want to do for Amalgam, and we're always limited by what our resources, so even like grant applications, like you said, like that is a thing that I'm like having to devote time to, because it's like I want to do so much more, but that requires resources.
Right, exactly. One of the things that we talk about a lot through Boss Small Black, I've talked a lot about this with Catherine, who's the founder of BAMS Fest, is how much the city, the place that you're in, plays a part in what you're able to build, whether it's around support, whether it's around access to resources, the visibility you get, etc. So my question to both of you all is, what role has your city played, whether positively or negatively, as far as helping you to start and or build your business, whether it be, access to the customers you're looking for, resources you've actually received from the city, or just even your, I keep using the same word, support, but kind of the ecosystem in that city, that allows, or, that allows people to build, or is a barrier to people building.
You want me to start?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I'm like pointing at you like you can see me.
Oh, yeah. I was like, I'm not sure. Yeah, so I will say Philly has been really supportive. One of the big reasons that we were able to get off the ground was through a city program. It's called the in-store loan. And if you're, in the Philly area and you're a new business owner, definitely check that out. It is competitive, as most things are, but if you are selected, you receive $50,000 to put into your business. And if you are able to keep your doors open and be in existence for 5 years, it actually reverts or changes over to a grant. And so you get like all the loan documentation saying like, yes, you've met your requirements. This has been transferred to a grant, and then it's just, like a true investment, like, as opposed to debt, right? And like I said, Amalgam's been in existence 6 years. So, during the pandemic, we got, our notice that, we've made that transition. So that was really huge. And I thought that was a really cool program. They also have in Philadelphia, there's storefront improvement programs where you can be reimbursed up to a certain percentage for adding to the curb appeal of your business, fixing your awning or the sidewalk or whatever, anything that kind of beautifies your store and the neighborhood. There's credit for that. So I will say Philly is a city that's rich with opportunity, if you're a new business owner. Not to mention, there are so many community development corporations in the neighborhood. Philadelphia is really a city of neighborhoods. So, if you're in a specific neighborhood, see if that neighborhood has a CDC, and they might be able to connect you with resources through the New Kensington CDC, which is the CDC in my neighborhood. I've been able to get bike racks, free, security cameras installed on the exterior of the buildings for free. Like, just again, just kind of access to things that have made the space safer and more convenient for my customers. Yeah, and I mean, and I'm honored to say I sit on their board now, so again, now having input in the work that they do, and thinking about the business owner, and specifically the Black, the POC, the woman business owner that's coming in, and helping people have access to those types of resources.
Nice.
That's
Naisha?
great. That's awesome. Um, you know, the work that we're doing, we're providing a service, right? So we're not a brick and mortar. Um, and so our needs are kind of different. I think that the first thing that popped in my head when you were talking about your storefront and your place of business is I'm thinking about where I work. And the beautiful thing about Boston and a lot of the things that they've recently done is they've redone a lot of our libraries, and the libraries have become my office space.
Mm.
So I love the fact that I can kind of wake up and choose a different office site, and it's free, right? I can go to JP Library, which is 5 minutes from my house, one direction, or I can go to the Roxbury, the old Dudley Library that just got redone, 5 minutes in the other direction. So just having the space to kind of do work in a quiet space during the pandemic, I think is a plus. I also was a part of different programs that offered grants, different entrepreneurship programs. There's one that's called E for All, where you learn. I didn't realize. I was like, okay, I know business. I got my degree in accounting. Like, I got this. Y'all can't tell me nothing. And then I went into business for myself, and I was like, well, dang, I don't know nothing about marketing. I don't know anything about SEO or any of that stuff. Um, so having this program where you're able to be in a community with other entrepreneurs that are learning with you, right? That was definitely helpful, and I'm still connected with the cohort that I was a part of. We're on WhatsApp, and we're like, kind of giving each other that moral support, like, keep going, you got this, you need any help. So I'm very, very much so grateful for that program. And then I think about the politicians. A lot of them are focused now on mental health because we're coming, well, I don't know if we're coming out of the pandemic. I still think we're in it. But a lot of them do realize the importance of getting this message out. And they realize that people of color, specifically Black people, definitely need to hear this message. So they are definitely helpful in uplifting the work that I'm doing
Mhm.
with Pure Spark, and I'm very grateful for that. So
How is this? I mean, um, I don't really know quite the right way to say it, but I guess I would say mainstreaming of conversations about mental health impacting the work that you're doing. I literally hear trauma everywhere I go. Meaning the phrase,
it's so
or
weird.
I think that I think that a lot of things are, and it's like many terms that they become over and misused. But in
Yes.
general, though, I particularly looking at like my nieces and nephews, their ages and their 20s, there's just more of an openness, among my friends, but also younger to have certain conversations. How has that impacted or, affected what you're doing?
Yeah, it's interesting because mental health is what I speak, see, dream, talk, like, read all day, every day. So my thought about it is that everyone's talking about it because I'm talking about it to everyone that I speak with, right, on a day to
Yeah.
day basis. But when I zoom out, sometimes I have to realize that the stigma still exists in our community. I actually just got off the
Mm,
phone with a friend that told me that a friend of his just passed away from suicide, right? And I still
mm,
get shocked, even though I lost 5 family members to suicide, even though we see the news and, whatever, I still get shocked, like, dang. And, he's telling me there were no signs. She looked happy. And I'm like, well, that was me. there was no signs of me being sad at all on my social media, right? So I still think we have a ways to go. Yes, I think that the conversations are getting better. We are removing some of that stigma. The stigma still exists, but we're definitely not where
Yeah.
we were before the pandemic. We're definitely further along, but we still have a ways to go.
Yeah. Ariell, for your business, I'll admit when I first was, and preparing for this, reading about you, I was like, Black woman comic book store. And I think that, within our Boston Black Network, we have these member led clubs, and I just saw we have a digital platform, a thread the other day of some members like, we need to start a blurred club, and that people are having that conversation, and I love it, and I think that I it may be my ignorance around being surprised about it, but I do have what I think is accurate is that that's not a place that we associate Black women. We don't really think about Black women, patronizing, much less owning a comic book store. So, tell us just, you told us the story of kind of your why, but how do people receive that? Like, what has been that journey for you of being, the face of this business?
I mean, like anything, there's been, some mixed. I mean, for the most part, I think people, and I guess again, it's like it's my people, like the people who hear about Amalgam and get excited about it, who, oh my God, I can't wait to come. It's like these are the people who've been waiting for a space like this. And there might be people for whatever reason. You go into a comic book store and you feel uncomfortable. And there are some great shops out there. There really are. Like I said, I've been going to comic book stores for, 20 years. And the stores that I went to, they were great stores, but I've also been in those stores that look at you sideways, assume you're buying something for your boyfriend, or, even kind of judging what you're reading. I remember buying Buffy, like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which is a show, but it also got continued in the comics. So where the show ended with season 7, the comics has 8, season 8, 9, and 10. But I love Buffy, but I remember going to a comic book store to buy it, and the guy actually saying something like, "Oh, of course you're buying Buffy." And it's like, yeah, because it's great. It's like, I am actually buying Buffy, but just kind of this being in this place where you have to kind of defend your nerd. I've had somebody say, well, if you're a nerd, name 5 people that wear capes. It's like, what? And it's just like, it's bizarre. But again, these people, they think they're gatekeepers and think they can tell you what you're into. And it's like, sir, and it's usually sir, right? I spend $40
Let me find
a
out
week.
there are nerd bullies out here.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. I mean, and that's the odd thing. I mean, again, if you're not part of this world, you may not know that. But just even with the Star Wars movie and the kind of heckling and bullying that went on for one of the Asian actresses in the series, even people being mad that oh my gosh. Finn was black, I just feel like in the space that is supposed to be for like the people that don't quite fit in, there's still some gatekeeping going on and wanting to say you don't belong here for whatever reason. So I think I get, that people feel that in the space, it feels different, just I think by nature of me being the person that owns it and knowing what it feels like to walk into a space and not feel welcome. Amalgam is actively working to be welcoming to everyone, because it's like nobody, like, this is such a fun world. It's I'm very much into world building. So sometimes it's just like My Little Pony is a tight universe. I don't know if you've ever watched My Little Pony, but I enjoy it because it's like, man, this universe is tight. And I like recommend it to anybody. I have a customer who reads My Little Pony and we talk about it. And like, it's so exciting and it's so much joy in it. And it's like, how dare you tell me I can't participate in joy, right? And yeah, so I feel like, yes, there's always those people who say weird things, stay out of the, that kind of stay out of the comments. I've definitely, had to deal with some of that. Or even people just walking in the store and they can't believe I own it. Like somebody asked me like, oh, do you own this with your husband? It's like, no, this is my store. Like, again, just they can't even fathom it. But again, those aren't necessarily the people who needed Amalgam, but the people who were looking for that kind of place. It's just like those are the people who I'm reaching out to. It's like, because I know what that feels like. And you just want to come in and nerd about what you want to nerd out about. You want to fussing about the movie that you didn't like and why you didn't like it. Like, those are the fun conversations we're having in the store. And it really gets real. Like, people really care about their fandoms. It get like when it gets when the flame comes up, like it can get hot in a nerd party. It's like, what they talking about? I'm staying out of that. Like, it's like, that's one of the buttons. I'm not getting involved. So, but and I think, again, it's just, it's joy, right? And so I think that's what I'm trying to bring, and I get, as I said, the people who have been looking for that, that's the community. That's who I did it for,
Yeah, I love that. And on the other side of that, or along with that, I can only imagine the little Black girls looking at you like, wow, okay, like it's safe for me to, fantasize and maybe be out of the quote unquote norm, of what's expected of me as a Black girl. So I'm sure there's a lot of that type of life changing that's happening as well.
Yeah, I mean, my story. I grew up on He-Man, She-Ra, all that stuff. And you didn't see Black faces. You didn't see Black faces. And so when I was introduced, my apologies. So when I was introduced to Storm, that changed the way I even saw myself in these stories. Before, I used to feel like I was very much reading other people's adventures, and Storm made me fantasize and like, oh, I can be the hero. You know what I mean? And that is like, that is life changing. It pushes you out of whatever box you were in and you thought that was your box. You realize your box is bigger than you think, or you can just be not in the box. It's like, I'm over here now. And I think that's for me, that's what I found. I kind of found myself in comics in just kind of in a very real way. I found myself.
I want to give you all the opportunity to ask each other some questions. We'll take a couple of minutes and then I'll come back in and wrap us up. But so just as you all have been listening to each other, very different types of businesses, also, lots of similarities. What are some things that you want to know as you all are both in your journeys building these parallel businesses?
Wow, yeah. It's so interesting to learn about other businesses. And, I'm obviously very new to this and I'm learning all the time. And so thank you for sharing some of your story with us. But Ariell, I'm just curious, like two things popped to my head. Like, what's your typical customer? What's the typical person that kind of walks into the shop? Like, are they younger? Are they older? Are they white? Are they Black? Are they shy? Are they talkative? Like, I'm just curious to know, like, what is the vibe of like the typical person that goes into the shop?
I don't know that there is a typical person, honestly. I mean, so it is, it's Black, it's white, it's Asian, it's Latinx, it's Spanish speakers. It's, like recently, especially I've been, we're trying to do work to stock more Spanish language comics, because that's what we live near a Spanish, speaking community, and that's what people are looking for. And it's not a lot of stuff out there, but we're, doing our best to find it and get it on the shelves. Their families, their, dads and or moms bringing in their kids, and like, I got to start them early because this is, I nerd out about this and that. It's college students, it's retired. I have a gentleman that like he only can come like once every 3 months because he's coming from like a retirement community. But he makes
Oh, wow.
his trip. He calls us ahead of time to make sure we have his stuff. You know, and again, so it's like it's the I think what they told you a nerd was not what a nerd was, right? It's like
Mm-hmm.
it's so much more. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
even like we had the honor of having the legendary DMC at our shop
Mm.
because he writes comics. And one thing that he
Mm,
talked about was like in his rhymes, he was using comic books as like the inspiration. And then of course you think about Wu-Tang Clan, you think about Iron Man, Tony Stark, you know what I mean? Like that's what Ghostface goes by. Johnny Blaze, which is what
Mm.
Method Man uses. Those are comic book characters.
yeah,
Like they're
Oh
talking
wow.
about
yeah,
comic books, right? Yeah, Johnny Blaze,
yeah.
that's the Hell Rider. I'm sorry, Hell Rider, Ghost Rider. That's the Ghost Rider, and you know,
Mm.
obviously Tony Stark, Iron Man. So again, it's like even the people that you didn't even register, like, wait, you're a
Right.
nerd. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like low
Right.
key. It's like everybody got a couple comic books in the closet. Like, oh, let me show you what I got. So I think that's the
Mm,
beautiful thing. There is no typical, right? But what I will say is the
Mm-hmm.
thing that inspires me when I see people coming in the door. I'm seeing a lot of girls. I'm seeing a lot of queer and non-binary folks. I'm seeing a lot of black and brown people who are like excited and know their stuff and are working on their own, you know, stories and this and that. So again, it's a really like it is a really exciting time to be you know, a quote unquote like a non-traditional, I'll say, nerd. Because we out here, and it's just like again,
mm,
and I love the fact that again, I can't even say there's a typical customer because it really isn't. It really isn't.
Oh,
Even you
nice.
know, there's the introverts and the awkward nerds, and then there's the you know very like effervescent and like hey da 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 like it's everybody. It's
Mm.
everybody. It's everybody.
I love that. I love that.
I love I love
That's
that.
awesome.
Any other questions y'all have? And I should have included myself in as well. If there's questions you all have.
Oh yeah, I actually did. I have one because just kind of looking over our businesses and you know we are you know providing goods and services, but I feel like at the core of what I'm seeing for all of us is community. I feel like all of us had community networking again as
Yeah.
a core staple of what we're trying to do. And so you're you know I'm using you know comic books to do it, you're connecting professionals to do it, you're taking care and connecting people to mental health resources to do it, but we're all building community. And I just wanted to know like why is that important, why is that you know part of your mission statement, if you will? Because I don't because that's not everybody. Like some people like I just want to sell you this thing and get paid and go on, but we it's like it's a different level of commitment when you're really trying to build community.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think that Black people are community. Like I literally feel like we're it the originators of it. I feel like it's just part of who we are, even when it's not in an organized way. I mean, we could all three of us right now go on if we all got on our phone right now and went on Black Twitter or Instagram or something like that, could find something instantly we could relate to. It's like I don't even know this person. We grew up in totally different parts of the country. We might be different ages, but we relate. There's ways, we're not all the same, but there's ways that we relate to each other. And I think that community is just kind of innate to us. And so for me, when thinking about how people choose where they live, even when they're choosing their workplaces, I don't think you can do it without having a strong sense of belonging. And in Boston in particular, you know, we're planning a summit right now, How to Boston While Black. And so I've been putting this call out for speakers around different topics. And one of our days is focused on tech and life sciences. I can't believe I put up one LinkedIn post. I got about 70 recommendations of Black people in tech and life sciences in Boston. In my DMs, on the post, people are
Mm.
DMing me on Instagram, and I don't even know why I'm still surprised, because it's literally what I've built a business around. But people are like thirsty for community. They want
Mhm.
to be, they want to connect with other folks. They want to find their tribe. They want to be a part of something. They want to be able to look across the street at a room and give someone a head nod. And so, yeah, so I just saw the need for it, because of my own experience here, and, even the experience of others who I talk to, who a lot of I'm from Albany, New York, but a lot of my friends, I've been here so long that mostly native Bostonians are my friends. And I think that in order for us, particularly, to continue to navigate the country and cities that we live in, we need to do it in community with each other. And so, and I like to have fun. I'm a party thrower. I love, a good house party. I love being able to do things in unique spaces. So for me, it's really the backbone of life. I do everything in community. And I know, similarly to what I said about you all earlier, I was fulfilling my own need. I'm not from here, so I had to do a lot to create a community for myself. And then I was like, you know what? I think other people need this too.
And we do.
Naisha
We definitely do.
is a member. Naisha is a founding
Yes,
member of
I'm a
Boston Be
founding
Black.
member. Make sure we get that
Active,
right.
very active member. Yeah,
I
and
love
we do
it.
talk.
I
We
love
talk a
it.
lot. I share about the cities, and like how your city supports you, or what that feels like, because I think that is that's important to, you know where you choose to settle down, where you choose to live your life. I mean, there's many factors involved in that, but a big part of it is like, who your people, like, who do you have in that place? And so that's what really we're trying to solve.
Absolutely. I mean, I think
Mhm.
community and belonging, like Sheena mentioned, is so important. It's in our DNA to belong. If we kind of take it back to prehistoric times, we were tribal people, and your survival depended on whether or not you were a part of a tribe, right? Because think
Mhm.
about it, if a saber-toothed tiger was coming for you and you're alone, your chances of surviving that, or surviving an attack, or are much less likely if you're alone versus if you're with the tribe in the community. So community is kind of necessary for our mental, emotional, and physical well-being. We it's very important. But to get more specific, when we talk about it in the mental health space and healing in community, to be able to be in a conversation, whether it's group therapy, peer support, which we used to host on a weekly then monthly basis, um, is something to be said about hearing someone else affirm and say, like, hey, I'm suffering from depression, or I'm dealing with depression, or I'm dealing with anxiety. It makes you feel like, okay, I'm not alone in the way that I'm
Yeah.
feeling. I'm not weird, right? Ariell is saying, like, oh, I'm not weird for liking these comic books. I'm not weird for dealing with or living with this diagnosis of bipolar disorder. There's someone like me who's a Black professional with a college degree
Yeah.
who also is living with it. So that
Yeah.
is a part of healing. Being in community is a huge part of healing. That's why I always tell Sheena that she probably doesn't see it like this, but also the work that you're doing is helping with decreasing suicide, right? If it wasn't for you, maybe you
Mhm.
don't even know this. You might have saved somebody's life just for them to be able to go into your coffee shop and to read a book and to have
Yeah.
a discussion with somebody. That is suicide
Yeah.
prevention. We think about suicide prevention, there's a suicide prevention health line, but there's things that we can do every day to help with suicide prevention. And one of it is
Mhm.
in being with community and feeling like we belong. It's so healing. So it's a very big and important part of the work that I
Mhm.
do.
Yes. No, that's very powerful. Thank you for sharing that. I think that if I look at the last couple of years in particular, but I think this is true across history. And you look at the different movements that Black people have led, the different, um, everything, our speeches, our music, our fashion, what it real a lot of it boils down to is like just we want to be seen. We want to be our humanity to be seen. That's what I thought of just now as I was listening to you, because I literally could visualize someone showing up at Ariell's coffee shop one day, looking for their favorite comic that she has in stock, and how that could have changed the trajectory of their whole life.
Big
And
time.
so that is very true, very, very powerful. And I think a lot of what a lot of people are looking for, Black, white, or other, is to be seen. And so I think we're all doing that work and building businesses and communities that see the people that we identify with and that we want to provide space for. So kudos to us for for out here saving lives. This has been an amazing conversation. I want to give you all an opportunity to share anything before we get off that you have going on. One of the just other than that takeaway I just shared, something Ariell you said earlier that was like, ooh, it gave me like a chill. I can't even remember now the full context of what you were saying, but if I could think about my takeaway for this whole conversation, you said it. You said, I am my own hero. And I think that, that is probably what we're doing. We're creating things to save ourselves and then save other people. So thank you all for being brave enough to share who you are with the world. Appreciate it.
Thank
before
you.
we sign off, yeah, thank you. Before we sign off, let us know what you have coming up. So this is going to be airing late March. So what do you have coming up? How can people stay in contact with you? And just, quickly, what's on the horizon for your businesses? So Ariell, let's start with you.
Yeah, well, you can check out Amalgam Comics and Coffeehouse. We're located at 2578 Frankfurt Avenue in the city of Philadelphia. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok. To my horror, I'm on TikTok. Talking about marketing, my assistant was like, we're getting on TikTok. And I was like, I'm too old for this. But we had a whole lot of fun on TikTok. But you can check us out on all of those social media platforms at Amalgam Philly. We are, it's, again, like Naisha said, I don't want to say we're out of the pandemic, but we are in a changing landscape. And so with that, we are moving, bringing back events. Amalgam is very event centered. Again, just that kind of that community focus. So we're kind of getting back to our core, hosting events safely, masked, vaxxed, all that stuff. But we have the best day of the year. Free Comic Book Day is coming up the first Saturday in May. I believe it's May 7th. And so you can check us out, get some free books. We'll be there to help you. Our promise is that we can find something for anybody. When people come in and we say, oh, what do you read? And they say, well, I'm actually just here because I'm here with my son, or I'm here with my, my boyfriend or my whatever. And it's like, that's cool. But what do you like to read? It's like comics are not just capes. It's not just superheroes. It's, so depending on if you like historical stuff, cool, we got that. You want comics based in music, we got that. Horror, we got that. Black girl horror, we got that, which is very exciting for me. I'm a huge horror fan. So yeah, so it's just we are just kind of getting back to the community of it all, and we're super excited about Free Comic Book Day. So if you're in the Philly area or you're planning on making a trip, please stop in and see us, and we'll hook you up with those good books.
You know what?
Thank you.
I've never been into comic books, but for some reason right now I got a taste to like. I'm always rooted in like reality. I'm never out in like fantasy. Like even the books that I read or the shows that I watch is always like a documentary, a real life, story.
Mhm.
But for some reason, I'm feeling like I need to get into comic books right now. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
It
and
sounds
here's the thing though, you
therapeutic.
can go that history route. It's like
Yeah.
Congressman John Lewis, he has an autobiographical graphic novel where he talks about his work in the civil rights movement. There are 3 volumes of it.
Wow.
The Story of Mouse, which is a book that recently got banned, which is a story about the Holocaust, but using the characters are actually presented as mice, like actual mice, but
Mm.
it's about that tragedy in American history. There's a comic book about women-led slave revolts. There's
Mm. I
which
love
I was
that.
like, what? Yeah,
I
when
get
I
into
was like,
that.
sometimes I'm like going through like book descriptions and it's like getting that. So again, like I said,
Yes.
even if you don't want to dip your toe in the supernatural, the weird, the crazy, like there are like fact-based comic books as well that are really telling stories and engaging people to learn history. And maybe learn history that they weren't even aware of before. So it's there's something for everybody.
We
No.
gotta have Ariel come talk to the Baltimore Black family.
Oh, facts. She needs to
Yeah.
get in. She definitely needs to get in. Yeah, and I'm definitely gonna join that conversation as well because I think I might be interested in the fantasy part of it. So if I attend the Roots picnic, I think they're doing it this year. I'd
They are
love to
doing,
stop
and it's
by.
going to be 2 days this year. So
Okay,
I don't think
okay,
they've ever done a 2-day before.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
no,
Yeah. So this is a big
Yeah.
one.
yeah.
Yeah. I'll be there as well. I'll actually be in Philly in 2 weeks. I was going to tell you. I'm coming there for my cousin's wedding. I have family in Philly. So I was like, let me
Oh,
see
nice.
if I can stop by. So I'll definitely let you know.
Absolutely, that's dope.
And Naisha, what do you have going on that we can share?
Yeah, so you can find me at www.yourpurespark.com. It's spelled just the way it sounds. On Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, just type in Pure Spark and you will find me there. We post mental health tips like what is anxiety? What does it look like? What is depression? What does it feel like? We also post different resources because we understand and realize we can't take care of everyone. So we try and share resources for Black men, resources for Black women, resources for children. So check us out there. And if you are in the Boston area, we are planning a dance class. So when we think about wellness, again, I want people to stop thinking about their mental health as just going to see a therapist. That was included in my care package and what I did. But we have to realize that the statistics, when it relates to therapists per people per population, it's like 38 therapists per 100,000 people. Like there's not enough
Wow.
therapists to take care of us all. And especially when you think about Black therapists, right? It's the number just starts getting less and less. So we have to start
Yeah.
thinking outside the box when we start thinking about wellness. And African dance is so healing because it combines sound, like the drums, with movement and community. So you're getting,
Mm.
3 in 1. So I want
Yeah.
to be able to start changing people's minds when we think about wellness and start looking at yoga, dance, acupuncture, and all these other modalities and services as a part of their mental wellness plan. So I'm really excited to create that. We don't have it locked in just yet, but it is going to be probably around the same time that this is airing, towards the end of the month. And in August, we are planning a pretty big Black Wellness Expo. That's going to be
Hey.
in District Hall. Yeah, so we started planning it. We're working on doing some fundraising, finding some sponsors for that. but really creating an oasis and a space for us to kind of learn about all these modalities that I've been talking about. Because I think a part of it is that people aren't really necessarily educated on some of it, right? So they don't really necessarily know that this is a pathway to healing. We're just now getting comfortable with seeing a therapist. But some of these ancient healing practices, I'm telling you, are super powerful. I just watched, and I haven't gotten into this type of healing practice, but I'm like, after learning about it, I'm like, ooh, I'm kind of interested. Psychedelics, something that came out in the 70s and was like, kind of looked and frowned upon. But some of these modalities are the only way that certain people are able to kind of live their life. And,
Yeah.
I know how debilitating some of these illnesses can be. So whatever is going to help someone without hurting them, I'm an advocate for it. So I can't wait to kind of be able to kind of share this with our community, because we got to heal. We have so much to heal from, so much trauma. So I want to be able to help in that.
Love it. Thank you. Well, looking forward to the to dancing and to the Wellness Expo. I know how important those type of opportunities for people to just be exposed to multiple types of paths for healing, is really important. So, and of course, we'll support any way we can. And then for us, I mentioned we have our How to Boston While Black Summit coming up at the end of April. So 3 days of panels, workshops, parties, experiences across the city, but really just an opportunity to talk about, learn from others who are navigating the city, and build community as always. So Boston While Black on all of our channels, LinkedIn, IG, except for some reason Twitter we did Boss While Black. I don't remember why. So BOS While Black on Twitter, but we're mostly on LinkedIn and IG. Hoping to get on TikTok. I'm working on my team, Ariell, because I feel like, I feel the same way. Like, do we belong on here? But part of me does want to do a couple challenges. So
yeah, and it's fun. I'm not gonna lie, it's fun. So since we've been on TikTok, I got a little bit into TikTok.
So I'm looking forward to that. Thank you again to these amazing Black women who are leading and caring for their communities. Thank you all for joining us. The ARTDACITY series, again, was being released on the BAMS Fest website and YouTube channel. The next episode after this one, I believe, takes place Thursday, April 28th, 2022. And if you would like to be the first to learn about upcoming BAMS Fest events, including the amazing BAMS Fest, please visit bamsfest.org to sign up for their newsletter at BAMS Fest on all the social media platforms. Thank you again to Amazon for supporting the ARTDACITY series. And until next time, have a great night.